I am tired of a set of people on the very far left in the Democratic Party. Ideas that are literally insane, nutty, moronic, dangerous, bigoted, are not progressive, they're regressive, and they should not be in our party.
I'm not living in communist America. I mean, I know the talking point is that, well, it's not communism, it's socialism. Okay, I've read the quotes from the DSA platform, from their own mouths. Don't tell me I'm not seeing what I am seeing. They say things like, you know, takeover of key industries, government. That's communism.
And this comes amid reports of tension between Bernie Sanders and Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader personally calling the socialist senator, telling him to stop meddling in Democratic primaries. But Sanders wasn't taking his orders. Over the weekend, Bernie teamed up with far-left Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed for a campaign rally that was a doozy. Watch here.
Brothers and sisters, let me tell you, change is coming. Progressives have been defeating establishment candidates all across America. Now, brothers and sisters, the entire country is watching this election, so there's an enormous responsibility on your shoulders.
Health care, Medicare for all, whatever you want to call it, absolutely. If you are sick, you should be able to go see a doctor. That's a good idea. I want free education for everybody as long as they want to keep learning. I think that's a good idea. The Green New Deal, I'm the author of the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is my phrase from my first book in 2008. There's nobody more committed to criminal justice reform than me, ecological solutions, the whole deal. These are our ideals as progressives. We should fight for them. We need them now more than ever. But what does that have to do with supporting Hamas? What does that have to do with putting up candidates who say we should have no police, no prisons, we can't deport anybody, even if they commit rape or murder, Israel shouldn't exist? These are terrible ideas. These are awful ideas. Where did these ideas even come from? If we want people to join this party, when people come to the party, you want to give them a wonderful punch bowl of wonderful ideas like this. Who is putting the poop in the punch bowl? Bruh. Why are these ideas in our punch bowl? These are regressive ideas. How do you know? Look at the ideas on this side. If you lived in a world where everybody could see a doctor when they got sick, even if they didn't have a penny in their pocket, if everybody could get an education as far as their learning and desire could take them, if everybody had clean air and clean water, if you didn't have ice running around hurting people for no reason, would that be a good world or a bad world? It'd be a great world. We need to progress toward that world. That's called progress. That's called progressive. Now, if you lived in a world where there were no police and no prisons, so that in your neighborhood, any gang member, terrorist, pedophile, Klan member could do whatever they wanted to, is that progress or regress? If you lived in a world where we said, well, you can be a terrorist if you want to, as long as you feel oppressed, and anybody can get blown up at any time and people will make excuses for it, is that a better world? Is that progress? Or is that regressing to a lawless, chaotic state? If we lived in a world where people could literally get elected to office with the only qualification being that they went and celebrated a mass murder of Israelis, if all elected officials celebrated mass murders, is that a better world or a worse world? These are not progressive ideas. These are regressive ideas. And I'm old enough to know the difference. And you're smart enough to know the difference. Ideas that make the world better, that help us progress to a better place. Those are the ideals of the Democratic Party. If you were not born rich, lucky, or famous, you need the Democratic Party. That's what we're for. That's what we're about. Ideas that are literally insane, nutty, moronic, dangerous, bigoted, are not progressive. They're regressive, and they should not be in our party. The people who are promoting these nutty, crazy, backwards ideas are party poopers. Literally, they're coming to the party and pooping in our punch bowl, and they need to stop.
All right, so we need to talk about what's happening inside the Democratic Party right now because it is getting ugly, and I mean really ugly. You got Van Jones, who you see on the screen, and I want to be clear about who Van Jones is right out the gate. This is not some conservative. This is not some moderate. Van Jones is a progressive. Van Jones is a Marxist, as a lot of people would say. This is a man who cozied up to the far left his entire career, wrote books about the Green New Deal, pushed criminal justice reform, pushed all these progressive ideas. And now even Van Jones is standing on national television saying the far left has gone too far. Let that sink in. When the far left is too far left for Van Jones, you know we have entered a different dimension of crazy. Van Jones went on CNN and basically said his phone has been blowing up from Democrats, governors, senators, House members, all of them panicking behind closed doors, thanking him for finally saying out loud what they've been too scared to say. And what are they scared to say? That the socialist wing of their party is taking over and eating them alive. Now, here's the thing I need you to understand, because this is not some new problem that just showed up. This has been building for years. The Democrats made a calculated decision. They looked at the energy on the far left. They looked at the organizations like the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, and they said, you know what? We can use these people. We can use their energy, and we can use their organizing power. We can use their voter turnout. All we got to do is let them in the tent. And for years, it worked. They would bring in the socialists, the Marxists, the defund police crowd, the open borders crowd, the abolish ICE crowd, the Hamas apologists. They brought all of them in under one big tent because they thought they could control them. They thought they could use them to beat Republicans, use them to beat Trump, and then keep them in check once the elections were over. But here's the problem with that strategy. When you invite extremists into your house, eventually they stop being your guests and they start acting like they own the place. And that is exactly what's happening right now. These far left activists are not content being the junior partners in the coalition no more. They are running in primaries and they are beating established Democrats, as you heard Bernie Sanders and what he said in the first clip. They are taking over seats that have been held by moderate Democrats for years, and the establishment Democrats who thought they were the ones in control are now realizing they are the ones being pushed out. They are the ones losing their careers, and they are the ones getting primary by candidates who want to abolish the police, who refuse to denounce Hamas, and who think borders should not exist, who think prisons should be eliminated. And now these establishment Democrats are panicking. They are crying behind closed doors. They are calling Van Jones and begging him to speak up because they are too cowardly to say it themselves. And that's the part that gets me. You had no problem using these people when they were knocking on doors for you. You had no problem standing on stages with them, and you had no problem taking their money and their organizing power. But now that they are coming for your seat, now that they're coming for your career, suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly you want to speak up, but you do not have the courage to say it with your own mouth. You have to send Van Jones out there to be your mouthpiece. And let me be clear about something else. Van Jones, as we're about to see the clip, sat there on CNN and tried to compare what is happening on the far left to what happened with the Tea Party or MAGA on the right, Republican Party. And I need to address that because that comparison is complete nonsense. There is no comparison, none, zero. The Tea Party movement was about physical responsibility, limited government, constitutional constitutional originalism. Sorry, family. It was about constitutional originalism, right? When it comes to that originalism, MAGA is about putting America first, secure borders, fair trade, ending forever wars. Those were those two movements, right? Tea Party, constitutional originalism, MAGA, put it American first. Neither of those movements ever demanded that you abolish the police. Neither of them ever celebrated the murder of civilians. Neither of them ever said we should have no borders, no prisons, no law enforcement. These are not equivalent. Like they are not equivalent. They are not equal. And when you try to make them equivalent, what you are actually doing is moving the overton window further to the left, right? So you are saying MAGA is far right, which makes the far left look like they are just slightly left of center, when in reality they are in full-blown communist territory. There's no equivalency. The Democratic Party has been calling everyone to the right, Republicans of them, a Nazi, a fascist, white supremacist, quote unquote, for so long that they have convinced themselves that any movement to the right is extremist. And now look what happened. They have legitimized actual extremists on their own side in their own party, in the Democrat Party, because they spent so many years pretending the center right was the same as the far right. So now you have Van Jones talking about how the far left is putting poop in the punch bowl. That was his analogy you heard. He said the Democrat Party is a party with a punch bowl full of good ideas, universal health care, free education, clean energy. But then these extremists come along and poop in the punch bowl with ideas like no police, no prisons, no borders, support for Hamas. And he is right about that part. Those ideas are poison. But here's what Van Jones will not admit. His good ideas are also bad ideas. Let me break that down. Universal health care sounds great until you look at countries that have it and realize people wait months for surgeries and die on waiting lists. Free colleges sound great until you realize somebody has to pay for it. And it's always going to be you through higher taxes. The Green New Deal sounds great until you realize Europe is literally dying from heat waves because they do not have air conditioning thanks to their green policies to meet demand of electricity with these little solar wind, these windmills, when it's no promise that there will be heightened winds for the windmills and things to continue to generate and meet the demand of electricity that's being pulled throughout the country or throughout a city or throughout a state, in which these windmills are coming from China. So Van Jones wants to act like his ideas are the nice, reasonable ideas. And the only problem is the crazy people to his left. But the reality is his ideas are the entry point. The far left ideas are just his ideas taken to their logical conclusion. You give an inch on socialism and Marxist takes a mile. You open the door to government control healthcare and eventually you get government control everything. You tell people they deserve free stuff and eventually they vote for whoever promises the most free stuff. That is how we got here, okay? Now that I added the context, I want you guys to hear Van Jones on CNN.
A Fox News host went after one of CNN's own tonight, and Van Jones was going viral, in part because of a post that he made over the weekend. It struck a nerve with both the right and the left, right? We showed you Fox, but on the left, well, there was a lot of response to this, too. So let me read in part what Van wrote. He wrote, "I'm tired of being told that to be a progressive, I now must swear allegiance to crazy ideas. I'm a strong Democrat with a winning bipartisan track record. I'm rooted in progressive ideals and policies, criminal justice reform, Green New Deal, Medicare for all, free education, clean air and water. Those are ideas I have fought for my entire life. But some people in groups like the DSA are pushing an agenda far outside those ideals. Supporting Hamas is not progressive. No police, no prisons, no borders is not progressive. Celebrating the murder of Israeli civilians is not progressive. These ideas are," Van's all caps, "regressive." And Van Jones is now out front along with Gretchen Carlson. So, Van, your post struck a nerve, right? We saw it strike a nerve on Fox News. I saw it strike a nerve among many on the left.
Yes.
Okay? For whom some of those things you mentioned have become passionate rallying calls, right?
Yeah.
But you knew it was going to. You didn't. Van Jones doesn't walk into a moment like this being like, "Oh, I don't think this is going to have a splash."
Okay, let me go like this.
Oh, why?
To you.
Why do you say?
Because this was necessary.
Thank you.
This was especially from your voice. Now, I'm going to let you respond first because this is about you, and then I can pick up.
Well, listen, I cannot tell you, this phone has been blowing up all day. Governors from both parties, senators from both parties, Democrats in the House thanking me for saying what everybody's been saying behind the scenes, which is that this stuff is going too far. I am a progressive Democrat. You want to talk about prison reform? I've done it as well as anybody, Republican Democrats in the South with Trump. I've done prison reform. I never said have no prisons. Where are you going to put the Klan? I've done police reform. I never said no police. Where are you going to put the pedophiles? Who's going to grab the pedophiles? This stuff is going too far. And part of the thing that has to happen is we saw what happened in the Republican Party when things started going in a nutty direction and nobody stood up. I am happy that the young people are fighting for affordability, Medicare for all the good things. I've been waiting my whole life to see a youth movement do what it's doing. But it's being hijacked by people who are putting in nutty ideas supporting terrorists, nutty ideas saying that we don't need cops in prison. We can't deport anybody even if they rape somebody. Who said this? Chevalier. Where did Chevalier?
Chevalier is going to is yes. The Democratic nominee. Sorry, DSA nominee for Congress now from the Bronx in New York.
I just want to say that there was a shockwave through this party when Mamdani, who everybody's excited about, stabbed in the back Espiat, who was the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, beloved by everybody, who backed Mamdani. Mamdani said, "I will back you." Then he turns around, stabs him in the back.
Chevalier.
And back Chevalier, who has no credentials except she's known for having celebrated October 7th murders of Israelis on October 8th and never apologized. This sent a shockwave through the party. People said, hold on a second. Why, of all the people in New York City, would Mamdani pick this person to betray someone? And then no one says anything. Everybody's quiet.
So Gretchen,
I'm not afraid to talk about
But that's
it.
why it's so important for him to say it.
Now, that seat, though, let's take the example that you gave, okay? That specific seat that we're talking about is a Democratic seat. So you can put someone as far left as you want or moderate as you want, a Democrat's going to win. So I guess what I'm saying, Gretchen, is does this affect the midterms when you're looking at seats that are not like that?
Yeah.
Seats that are purple where your nominee is not somebody who said the things that Van just said.
No, because look at the movement that's been created. It's what the media is talking about. And it's not just in New York. We're talking about Michigan now. We're talking about Colorado. We're talking about a bunch of other states where this movement is going on. And I think it was so important that Van Jones said this. Because quite honestly, you were thought of as way over on the left.
I am.
I know. I know.
I'm just not crazy.
And so it's very important for him, in my mind, to point out that this is a very dangerous, slippery slope. And from an independent point of view, where the majority of Americans are sitting, they're scared to death of this movement. They're not going to vote for it. And by the way, I've talked to a lot of Democrats over the last couple of weeks. They are begging people to get out in the primaries for the regular Democrat to vote.
Okay, but where do people like AOC, who is being talked about now frequently in presidential circles, who is very progressive, maybe even more progressive than you are, and has been in all of these circles, where does she land on this?
Well, look, I'll let her speak for herself. I haven't heard her coming out and supporting Hamas. Chevalier, Mamdani's pick, refused to denounce Hamas 4 times. It's a U.S. registered terrorist organization. I haven't heard AOC saying that if someone raped someone and murdered someone, they shouldn't be deported. Mamdani has picked a candidate that's her position. I want this party to get behind the good things that are coming up from the young people. These young people are fighting. They have no opportunities. They've been lied to. They took college debt. They need a change. They deserve a change.
You're talking about health care and
I'm talking about health care,
rent.
affordability, all these different positive things that they're doing. But if we can't say right from wrong, if we can't say good from bad, if we can't separate progressive ideas from regressive ideas, we're going down the same pathway that has pulled the Republican Party into an unrecognizable shell of itself. And I refuse to let that happen to Democrats.
And the other problem is, and we've talked about this on the primary election nights over the last couple of months, like 5,000 people vote in these primaries. And yet they dictate the outcome and the movement that we're now experiencing. And so you have to put that in perspective. But at the same time, you have to be very concerned about that. So if you, independents can't vote in primaries.
Yeah,
so in this case, it's up to Democrats to go out and get to the polls.
The concept of an open primary would make a huge difference.
If they agree with
in the red and the blue, right? And in both extremes.
All right, family. So the lesson in all of this, and the thing we should actually take away, is that you cannot make deals with extremists and expect them to stay in their lane. You cannot invite people who want to tear down the system into your coalition and then act surprised when they start tearing it down. That is what the Democratic Party did. They saw the energy on the far left, and instead of rejecting it, they embraced it. They thought they could control it. They thought they could use it, and now the same energy is turning around and consuming them. And the people they empowered are now coming for them. The monster they created is devouring them. And you know what? It is hard to feel sorry for them because they had every warning. People have been telling them for years that this is where the road leads, but they ignored it because winning was more important than being right. Power was more important than the principle, and now the bill has come due. So here's the life wisdom in all of this, and this is where I want to bring in something that applies whether you're spiritual or not. There is a principle in the book of Galatians that says, whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. And that is not just a Bible verse, that is a law of life. It applies to farming, it applies to business, it applies to relationships, and it applies to politics. If you plant seeds of extremism, you are going to harvest extremism. If you plant seeds of division and dishonesty, you are going to reap division and dishonesty. If you make deals with people who do not share your values, do not be surprised when they betray you. The Democratic Party sold the win by embracing socialists and Marxists, and now they are reaping their world win. And the reason this is important for us to understand goes beyond politics. This is about how life actually works. Every decision you make has consequences, and every alliance you form comes with a cost. And every time you compromise your principles for a short term gain, you are planting something that is going to grow back, and you might not like what comes up. The wisdom here is simple: be careful who you get in bed with, because you are going to have to sleep in that bed, right? And if the people next to you are extremists who want to burn the house down, do not be shocked when the fire comes for you too. And the Democrats are learning that lesson the hard way right now on national television. And the rest of us, we got to watch. We get to watch and learn without having to go through it ourselves. And that is the gift of paying attention. That is why we watch, why we analyze, why we break this stuff down in plain English. So we can see the trap before we step in it, so we can learn from other people's mistakes instead of making our own. And also, he mentions affordability and universal health care. But the reality is, things have been streamlined in regards of the principle of actually putting party over people, where you see this massive um, thing of healthcare fraud and using our most vulnerable, our seniors who have put in the time and worked their behind off on the backs of this beautiful country, United States of America. Hospice care, when it comes to California, being frauded, when individuals from foreign countries who are basically having healthcare businesses are not even actually certified doctors, but they are like cartels working with actual doctors who are actually certified or actually barred as a doctor, who take the oath to have the best interest of the patient, actually putting their best interest over the health of the patient by using and having tactics that commit fraud while actually committing claims and filing claims in the name of insurance, also aka the insurance charging the federal government whatever amount they want in the name of to enrich themselves, while they get a form of payment off of the backs of our seniors, off of the back of healthcare. So just imagine where universal healthcare would go if it's already loopholes within our healthcare system where we can extract in the name of fraud while compromising and taking advantage of our most vulnerable individuals who are going through health challenges as a people. And you want universal health care? And there are already loopholes within healthcare that are being exploited in the name to enrich oneself in the name of fraud, while taking all the monies for American taxpayer dollars. Universal health care is only going to make the American people and the legal immigrants who are American people and part of our family of the beautiful United States of America actually going to make the cost of living go up and taxes to be raised more in the name of already the fraud that is being exploited and extracted in an abundance of numbers that is already costing the cost of living. So universal health care is just going to take it way over the edge of extremism and blow things out the water. And then you're talking about affordability in the same sentence. Very contradicting. Doesn't seem like you care about affordability while you're sitting there advocating for something that has loopholes to be exploited in the name of fraud to enrich oneself, while doctors sit there and basically go against their oath of helping our American people and upholding the trust and the actual healthcare integrity to our people. Also, out of respect for just prioritizing people of a party and actually prioritizing people's health over oneself, selfish motives. But he sits there talking about affordability and there's no opportunity. While foreigners come here, create an LLC out of nowhere, a hospice care, and then in the name of fraud, in the name of fraud, get rich off of just filing claims, and also claims that is not even adequate, in the name of falsifying the report of what the actual individual may need on their healthcare report. So you're filing a claim from your hospice care business, and the doctor is working with you within their profession, basically forgetting their oath, neglecting their oath as a healthcare professional, and saying, you know what, we're going to get rich and we're going to basically prescribe medicines that this person may not need to just be enriched more. Because the simple fact is, when you pay out of your pocket for healthcare, and for, let's say, a private doctor to come out, or like a concierge doctor, you get a set price. You realize private doctor offices are out of business, while the big corporate hospitals took over and bought out private doctors, which used to be a popular thing because you got a set price. But free turned it into streamlining of health insurance, which is why they want healthcare insurance for all, because the simple fact is, all the buck is going to be passed to is the government, who pays the bill, aka the taxpayer, who doesn't have affordability because the taxes are so high. Because look at what's being exploited in the name of freeness, while fraud is also taking place. Because when you file that insurance claim in the name of universal health care, that goes to the state, and the insurance is going to bill the state, aka the federal government, whatever price they want. But if you have a set price paying out of pocket, you only get what the set price is. So they get more when they charge the state, and aka the federal government, and they charge amount that they may please, which is why you see individuals who are part of this healthcare ring and scheme that you've seen happen, that has been exposed by Dr. Oz and the Trump administration in California, take place in the name of hospice cares, which really, really frustrates me. It really pisses me off. Our seniors. And you're just using people in the most vulnerable time of their life to enrich yourself. That is evil. But spread that peace, love, and positivity, family. As always, we're just having a conversation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Keep it respectful as always, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.